let's move back to the Middle East now. And what is the latest on Israel and their plans post whatever it is that they're doing at the moment, genocide?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm trying to keep an eye on the ball and following the direction of travel because there's an awful lot of confusing and contradictory rhetoric from Israeli officials, US officials, UK officials, EU officials. But what's interesting is that Israel keeps coming back to this post-genocide Gaza plan. So this was in the Financial Times, Israel to test, Hamas-free bubbles in post-war Gaza plan. Doesn't that sound cuddly? So let's have a look at what they're looking at doing. Israel is preparing to test an experimental model for running post-war Gaza by creating a series of bubbles that are designed. It actually takes me back to COVID, that are designed to be Hamas-free, but have been met with incredulity by many people briefed on the plan. The pilot scheme, a template for what Israel imagines would follow the war, will be launched in the northern Gaza neighborhoods of Atatra and Beit Hanun and Beit Lahia, which have been coming under heavy bombardment again. But even with the Israeli military on the cusp of starting the pilots, there is widespread skepticism over their viability given the violent opposition of Hamas and the resistance factions, infighting in Israeli Benjamin Netanyahu's government over the details, and tepid backing from Arab states. And it has been described as a fantasy project. So let's just have a quick look at the map just to see where these so-called bubbles are going to be piloted. So Atatra, Beit Laia, and Beit Hanun, well in the north. And then going on as it continues in the Financial Times, the second person with knowledge of post-war Gaza added that Israeli attempts to identify local Palestinians who could run Gaza in Hamas's stead have been ongoing since November without any significant success. This plan is just the latest iteration. The idea in Israeli minds is that someone, the Arab states, the international community, will pay for it and locals in Gaza will run it, but no one is biting, the person added. And continuing just with on-the-ground humanitarian bubbles would then in effect be run by reps from the international and Arab coalition, so back to Egypt, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Jordan, local PA, Palestinian Authority, that are very much seen as proxies of the Zionist government, and private contractors and business people. Several people familiar said there were also plans to train up a local Palestinian force from inside Gaza to take over security and the humanitarian bubbles, which we assume are going to be programmed and de-radicalized from a Zionist perspective. Such a force would consist of former PA security personnel who would either travel to Jordan or the West Bank for training under the auspices of US Lieutenant General Michael Frenzel, the Jerusalem-based security coordinator between Israel and the PA. The PA's influential intelligence chief has already been vetting candidates from inside Gaza, with several thousand men identified as potential recruits, according to two people. So let's go back to a report that we did on UK Column News a few months ago when we talked about Netanyahu's dystopian vision for post-genocide Gaza. And you will remember then the so-called safe zones that have now been rebranded as humanitarian bubbles, where the so-called de-radicalized Palestinians would be segregated and corralled and potentially to be used, of course, for slave labor. So, we keep coming back to the same idea, the same project, the same plan. And I think it's important just to keep our eye on that ball while everything is going on very much to confuse us.
Yeah, thank you for that.